Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. I'm Rishabh Gulati. Ladies and gentlemen, as human beings, as individuals, as families, as societies, as cultures, and as sovereign nations, at what point of time do you stand up and say enough is enough? At what point of time do you stand up for yourself? At what point of time do you stand up and point the fingers back? At what point of time do you say that we are no longer the naive, the nascent, the lost, that we are no longer fools? Do you do that when your embassies and high commissions get attacked? Do you do that when your envoys representing your country get attacked? Do you do that when your brethren get assaulted and beaten? Do you do that when your country's federal ministers are accused of murder? Do you do that when your country's envoys are accused of murder? Do you do that when people who claim to be your future partners and friends are doing everything to promote those who want to see you destroyed? That's what I thought the Pakistanis and Chinese were up to, not the Canadians and Americans for sure. Surely not. That makes no sense. We're not a death to America country. I mean, we are. I'm Punjabi, we aspire to live in these countries. We want to swear by the American dream. We want to go and run Google. We want to go there and run Microsoft and Cisco and PepsiCo and MasterCard. That's what we are about. We're not there to plant a flag and claim a separate country. At what point of time do you say enough is enough? Let's have this conversation. Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev is with us on the broadcast. Tarun Gulati is on the broadcast with us. Major General Rajan Kochar is with us. Professor Madhav Nalapat is with us. Adit Kothari joining us, and I'm expecting Dean Baxendale joining us very shortly as well. Professor Nalapat, now at what point of time, when it's just become, we've been discussing this for 3 years, 4 years, you've been writing about this for even longer. What you exactly said has come to pass, that you will try to do the wrong thing and create suspicion and alienation in India, and in the end we will suddenly make peace on the border with China and start heading in what many would say the wrong direction. What now?
Look, Rishabh, the government of India's patience is finally at the highest level over. Instead of confining it to G, government to government, the fact is G is worthless when the other government is completely deaf, dumb and blind to whatever you're saying, whatever logic you're giving, whatever proofs you're putting forward. So finally the gloves are off. The Prime Minister did not talk to Justin Trudeau. He gave a tweet, a message on the X platform, and a very clear, curt message. And I think I'm very glad he did so. With absolutely the right thing about yet the latest attack on a Hindu temple and the attack on our consulates. I mean, this is just the latest in a string of this kind of activity. So, honestly, the government has gone G to public, government to public. And I think we should also ensure to go G to public in Canada and public to public as far as Canada and India are concerned. I think it's high time the victims of Trudeau's misfeasance, past and present, senior Trudeau and junior Trudeau, for example, Kanishka bombing victims, and they're all Canadians, that they ask for a meeting, who can refuse them? And of course, victims in India. And we go around the world and we say what has been happening. And we say about the refusal to extradite a known terrorist against whom India had given clear evidence. And the terrorist was found blowing up an exclusive and basically to the Canadian police. The Canadian police had exclusive footage to the man blowing up explosives at the test, and yet they thought he was the same. So quite frankly, it's time to speak up. It's time to spread the word. It's time to make sure that truth overcomes falsehood. And I'm really glad a very strong start has been made by the Prime Minister, followed by the External Affairs Minister.
Okay, the absurdity of it, because what Professor Nalapat has just quoted is, I'm going to ask my my production team, can you pull out the visuals of the American ambassador and his Diwali celebrations? They really put into context, because that's what actually is happening, and what they want you to go see and go viral is completely different, and that's a very North American belief that all Indians can understand is hoopla, is tamasha. And you keep them busy here, okay, and they won't understand how you're being stabbed in the back from the other side. Hey, I'm Punjabi, I understand, okay. So let me put that into context with the good ambassador. Ambassador Sachdev, let me reverse this. Let me reverse the scenario. Let me pose to you a hypothetical scenario that certain individuals in this country are supporting the Irish Republican Army. They are conducting a referendum for the freedom of Northern Ireland. They are throwing Molotov cocktails at the British High Commission, tearing down the Union Jack. There are yet others demanding, in the spirit of Charles de Gaulle, a free Quebec, viva le Quebec libre. They are tearing down the flags from the Canadian High Commission. They are putting up hoardings demanding deaths to Canadian diplomats. In fact, there might be yet others running floats celebrating the assassination of Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy, and suggesting that others go out and take up arms against their diplomats. If this was happening and it was discovered that within these protests, off-duty Delhi policemen were taking part, how would that be perceived in this hypothetical scenario, sir?
Well, you don't expect me to answer that. It's a rhetorical question, and the answer is pretty clear. It'll be an abomination, and on all these accounts, the white man's burden is supposed to be carried by the brown man. No, I think it's an absurd tautological question, and I think the answer has to be equally absurd. It cannot pass. Now, the attack at Brampton Hindu Sabha Gurudwara was an abomination in itself, even without the parallels you raised, for more than 3 reasons. Firstly, it was an attack on a consular team, and consular team enjoys the same immunity as the consulate building would have enjoyed. Consular persons working outside on a weekend to facilitate in a large country, going where people are in need of services, life certificate for pensions as it is in India. This is the month. So they were helping them, and attacking them is a violation of the international law. Secondly, attacking a religious premise is a law and order situation. Thirdly, an off-duty policeman being merely suspended for taking part in a violent, what they call protest. It's not a protest, it's actually a rampage. It's actually an incident that should be accountable by the criminal law of the country. So on all these accounts, Canadians, the government is culpable, the authorities are culpable, and it didn't happen in a way out place. It happened in a Toronto suburb, which is even more abominable. I think the reactions from across the board, from Indian media, from Prime Minister, from External Affairs Minister, from RSS have been measured but quite biting.
Okay.
And let's hope it has the desired
Okay,
impact.
so let me put another rhetorical question, okay, and I'll put this time to the good General. General Kocher, let us say you and I start a project tonight, compiling the religious freedom index of the world as it stands, and we were to view the developments that are taking place in Canada. Would we be, suffice to say, have certain doubts about the religious freedom of minorities if their places of worship are being openly attacked and aided and abetted by people who are off-duty police officers?
Rishabh, I think it's a fairly pertinent question which you have raised in this important discussion today, because this is not the first time we have seen a religious place of a minority of Hindu temple being attacked in Canada. There have been numerous instances, and especially if I can recount from the time Trudeau has become the Prime Minister from 2015 onwards, these incidents have been on the rise, and the relations between Canada and India have been on the decline. And there have been numerous cases. I can start from the year 2018 when Jaspal Singh Atwal, he was invited to the Canadian High Commission in New Delhi during Trudeau's visit, and he was wanted in assassination case in India. Then we had this 2020, the farmers' agitation, where we heard Trudeau trying to interfere into the internal affairs of the country and making a statement in favor of the protesters. And we as a country have never interfered in the internal affairs of...
No, but why not? Why not? Why can't I? I live in a free country as I knew it, sir. I mean, I'm free. I'm to walk around. I'm not afraid of anything. There is no Godi operating here. I'm pretty free. Why can't I start supporting the IRA, sir? Why can't I stand in support of a free Quebec?
See, it's like this, that there are certain ideals which the Indian nation stands for, and we have strictly followed those ideals of foreign governance, of foreign relations. There has not been a single case as far as India is concerned, even with the neighbors concerned. You take Bangladesh, you take Nepal, you take Pakistan. We have never interfered into the internal affairs of the country. Those internal affairs are their own doing, and they have to sort out the issues.
Yeah, but General Kocher, I find it very strange. Perhaps it is my naivety and lack of education and understanding, because I am not briefed by Five Eyes intelligence. That a certain South Asian Prime Minister happens to go to Beijing. She spends 10 days there. Beijing is no friend of India's. She comes back, and within 2 weeks there is a crisis in a country, and a person who takes a paycheck from the Clinton administration takes over. Can happen. Oopsie daisy can happen. Things can happen. I'm curious. Let me get Adit Kothari in. And Adit, I'm showing visuals on our screen. This is Eric Garcetti. He is the American ambassador to India, doing a very well choreographed Bhangra. Before this, we saw Justin Trudeau attending a concert with Diljit Dosanjh happening in Canada. What's the purpose behind this? Are they they're really deeply wedded to cultural ties and they really love Bhangra? That's the reason?
Look, Eric Garcetti is not your conventional diplomat. He is what one would say is a dancing jester at the best. He basically uses social media platforms to increase his reach and show that, he is trying to be, more loyal to the king. But in
which
actual,
king?
Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, which king is he being loyal to? What's he trying to do here?
Well, in this case, he's trying to be more Indian by putting on, Indian dresses.
But didn't
Indian
Trudeau do
dancing
exactly the
shoes
same when he did the 2018
and
tour
food
with the
blogging?
multiple dresses?
So he's a food blogger. He's a dancer. He's a comedian, and he's a wannabe cricketer, and that is what he is. He's not the diplomat of United States. And it also demonstrates the Western hypocrisy to a great degree, because he chooses to dance and do all of the food blogging stuff, but yet not talk on pertinent issues which actually impact the India-US relations. I mean,
Why is that? Why is it because he and the American embassy here, the American envoys, the American establishment, in the middle of an election, which they are voting also, they are also casting their postal ballots, they think we are so stupid that we are distracted by the tamasha, that this is the viral video and we don't care about what else they're up to?
But that we are, Rishabh. The fact that, you look at the number of retweets on his dancing video. So the fact remains that, we do get swayed by actions like that, unfortunately. The point is that, the polity in itself has not shown enough spine, and I'm glad that the Prime Minister has now come out finally tweeting on this particular issue. That too, it's a very calibrated tweet. He's not calling out the Khalistani elements for what they are. They're separatists, they're thugs, they're criminals, and they're gangs operating on Canadian soil. It's a Canadian problem at the end of the day, and that's the way he's basically pointed it out.
Okay.
At the end of the day, Western civilization is facing a massive issue of these Sikh separatists, of these Sikh criminals, and Western civil society is going to pay a price. Hillary Clinton very famously had said, if you have snakes in your backyard, they are going to come and bite you. But that is what she had said in Islamabad, not doing any amount of introspection or of any sorts. At the end of the day, these Sikh extremists are sitting in the Western Hemisphere.
Okay.
They are sitting within the civil society, and they are causing a lot of trouble.
Funny you mentioned it. For a reminder to His Excellency Eric Garcetti, let's listen into what the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, actually said. This was in Pakistan. Listen in.
Policy that draws distinctions between so-called good terrorists and bad terrorists can provide long-term security.
You can't keep snakes in your backyard and expect them only to bite your neighbors. Eventually those snakes are going to turn on whoever has them in.
You can't keep snakes in your backyard and expect them to only bite your neighbors. Eventually those snakes will turn around and bite you. Let me get Tarun Gulati here. Tarun Gulati, is there a feeling in the British administration? Are they feeling, FOMO? Are they upset because London was the epicenter of the Khalistani movement? London was where everything was exciting was happening. Is the British state feeling very bad that it's all shifted to Canada now? Are they feeling a bit left out?
Well, firstly, I don't think the new Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has come out strongly. He hasn't, and you're correct, it started in the UK. I spoke out openly on all channels when our embassy was attacked, our flag was desecrated. I think the issue in Brampton is very deliberate, despicable and deplorable. It is to intimidate worshippers. Everybody should be allowed to go out and worship. It is to instill fear and to actually find an off-duty officer, appeal officer, come out and support this sort of a instigation. Is the government should take out strong action, and I think the UK government needs to do a lot more. I spoke out openly when the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, hadn't come out and stopped the demonstration outside the High Commission in London, and I think more needs to be done by the governments. They need to speak out. The people, I believe in Canada, are doing this because they feel they have the support of the government. If that wasn't existing, people wouldn't come out. So these separatists, or whatever you want to call them, are sort of getting emboldened by the fact that...
So, Tarun Gulati, let me pose the same question which I posed to the good ambassador. should we here in, I live in New Delhi, sir, should we start organizing a referendum for the freedom of Northern Ireland here?
No, I don't think so, and that's what the government of India doesn't do. As you'd appreciate, we don't interfere in other people's affairs.
No, but I'm not the government of India. Why can't I do it? I'm a free citizen exercising my free speech. I think the British Army, which conducted Bloody Sunday and murdered the Irish men over many decades, need to be held to account. And I'm a big supporter. Would it be okay for me to raise funds and organize referendums and tear down the Union Jack from the British High Commission in the name of free speech?
I don't think you can certainly organize a march and speak out against it and collect crowds and certainly voice your concerns. But to tear down flags and to ask for, the internal matters of
maybe a few Molotov cocktails here and there. That's not okay.
Sorry?
A few Molotov cocktails, is that allowed, sir?
Not at all, not at all. And that's what's been happening. And I think we need, as the Prime Minister has spoken out, tweeted, I think sterner action needs to be taken. Canada is the 10th largest trading partner. This is you've got to impose tariffs and you can take economic sanctions and other aspects need to be taken forth now. Stronger action needs to be demonstrated and shown. Otherwise, these things
But Tarunji, how is the community taking it where you are? Because we were discussing just a short while ago with a few other guests. You and I both know that Hindu and Sikh communities are intertwined, right? I mean, they're intermarried. Our forefathers, some eldest child in some family became a Sikh and adopted the ways of Guru Nanak.
Certainly.
But today, when you're going to Gurudwaras in London and you're just conducting a marriage, and I have a first-hand account, been there, seen that, done that. The first thing is a huge photograph of Bindrawale. Okay. So if you're trying to get married in a Gurdwara in London, the first thing is you have to bow your head to Bindrawale, whether you have an understanding of who he is or not. So there has been a takeover. How is that affecting the community where you're sitting?
I think the community is impacted. The community is aware of this. I stood for 2 elections earlier this year as an independent for Mayor of London and then for Parliament. There were certain Gurdwaras I couldn't go to and they were divided. And certainly the community is divided, impacted, but there's precious little the government can do. People are talking about it, but no stern action is being taken. We certainly saw some disturbance in Southall recently over the Diwali celebrations also, and some investigation is ongoing. We don't know who's behind that. So certainly this is impacting the cohesion of communities, and you're right to go for a wedding and to see a certain photograph that has caused a lot of this unrest is not a nice thing to see.
Okay, so other than the rather absurd scenarios that I've painted, General Kocher, in practice, what can we actually do other than watch this play out?
Not yet opened its plans. The first and the foremost thing, as Tarun has also mentioned, there is a need to impose tariffs on the trade. And we have a substantial amount of trade with Canada, $930 million US dollars in a year. And there is a case in point, because see, you can tolerate things up to a point. The situation has gone out of hand. Even Home Minister Amit Shah has been named by them as one of the suspects in the assassination of Niger. A second important aspect is, I was just reading a report in the morning. India has been listed along with China and Russia and North Korea as a cyber threat.
Yeah, that happened a couple of days ago. Yes. Yes.
So now what happens? Are we going to take it lying down?
So what happens? Time? You've been told that you're on the axis of evil. That's what you've been told.
So now is the time to take strict and stringent measures as far as the relations with Canada concerned, because we will have to also wait till the next elections in 2025 in Canada and see if there is going to be a change. But if there is not going to be a change,
Okay.
are we going to wait till then to take any?
No, because 40 years ago, we told them this is not okay, something is going to go wrong. Then we told them within the next month, this is what's going to go wrong. And then we said within the next 2 weeks, this is going to go wrong. And it went wrong and 300 people died. Ambassador, can this be happening? Can a Trudeau be doing what he's doing? Because the trade to Canada is actually insignificant. It's $1 billion. Nobody cares. Can Trudeau be doing this without the Americans saying, yeah, go ahead?
Difficult to say. They take coup from United States all the time. But with the elections round the corner, Mr. Trudeau has a mind of his own, a survival instinct that pitches him to Khalistanis. Now, I have a couple of points that I would like to mention in terms of what we can do. There are many things we can do. Trade is something that has been mentioned, but we can use trade and the beneficiaries in Canada from trade with India, in pulses, in oil and gas, in technology transfer, etc., need to be told to press their government. Secondly, Khalistanis are minuscule, but they have muscle power and they have ruthlessness. Now, why can't 2.8 million Indian origin people in Canada be, corralled into a more strong voting lobby? Collectivizing them would be something that can be done. Thirdly, we can put restrictions on the cultural exchanges and soft power that Canada wishes to exercise with regard to students in India. We are the biggest source of their students. Their universities would be bankrupt if there were no Indian students. Similarly, it's a labor short country. There are tundra areas in the north of Canada where nobody wants to go and live.
Okay.
And Indians come in as very convenient cannon fodder for that kind.
Okay. To my fellow Punjabi brethren.
So all these things can be worked out.
Okay. Who
we
of
can
you
also
actually
start court proceedings, as United States does, against Saudi Arabia, for example.
All right. To my fellow Punjabi brethren, which of you would want to now go and study in Canada? Think about it. You're seeing it on your screens yourself. I'm desperately over time, so I'll take quick reactions. Last word with Professor Nalapat. Before that, Adit, your last thoughts on this. Adit.
So I think you'll recall that there was a gentleman called Colin Bloom who presented a report to the British Parliament about the Khalistanis, and he clearly mentioned that they're a fringe community, but they essentially provided a disproportionate amount of influence in the British politics. So that needs to stop. How do we stop this? The collective society of Sikhs need to come out. Until they do that, until the so-called silent majority, who at this point I see as complicit majority, until they come out and start taking things into action, I don't think this is going away anyway from a Western Hemisphere problem. This will continue to stay on.
The problem with that is that people who are immigrants, especially first-generation immigrants, they don't want to get into all of this. They are gone there to earn a living, to get a job. They don't want to get into all of this. They want to stay far away from this. So we are putting a burden on them, which perhaps I don't know if they're willing to take or are able to take. Professor Nalapat, your last thoughts. In the end, an election in America is about to conclude in a few hours. Will that change something?
Well, look, the fact of the matter is that if Donald Trump were to come, I think a lot will be changed. Of course, within his own camp, there are individuals who are unfortunately prisoners of hostile lobbies. I mean, he gave an absurd suggestion that any country that is importing into the United States, there should be high tariffs, not just China. That lets China off the hook, and then it retains its competitive advantage. The point is that the tariffs are something to be used against a hostile country. India and the US are not hostile, but barring quirks like that, which I'm certain that his team can sort through, I think overall, he's got a very positive perspective about India, and he frequently mentions that. And he mentions, for example, desecration of house of worship. He mentions his friendship with Prime Minister Modi. Having said that, I want to say that so far as Kamala Harris is concerned, look, fundamentally she has to align herself with US interests. If she loses the elections because people will think she's too much like Joe Biden, that's why she'll lose, and that's why Trump may win. So hopefully she will draw the right lessons if she gets elected. So overall, like say Rishabh, Gurdwaras, let's be honest. I mean, we can sit here and talk about the community needing to do something about it. The fact is, many of them have paid with their limbs and with their lives for doing precisely that.
Yes.
And the governments of those countries have done nothing to protect them.
Let me just point it out. I'll read it out once again. Harneck Singh was attacked in New Zealand. 5 eye powers. Judge Woolford remarked, I quote, it bears all the hallmarks of religious fanaticisms. 3 Sikhs targeted another Sikh because he spoke against Khalistan. It happened in New Zealand. We take a break. Thank you, gentlemen. See you in a minute.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.